Have you ever wondered why some women can make you think about sex without ever saying the word? You're sitting across from her at dinner, her tone light, her smile warm, and yet you can feel the air shift like there's a silent signal moving between you. She doesn't ask, she doesn't invite, but your mind is suddenly in a place it wasn't 5 minutes ago. And if you're like most men, you can't explain exactly why. You just know she's hinting at something. The truth, this isn't random, it's deliberate, whether she's fully conscious of it or not. She's pulling from an arsenal of non-verbal cues that trigger attraction in a way words never could. Picture this. You're in a bar with a friend, casual night out. A woman you've met once before joins your group. She doesn't start with big gestures or heavy flirting. Instead, she plays with the rim of her glass as she listens to you speak, eyes holding yours for just a beat longer than normal before looking away. Her knee brushes yours under the table, accidentally, and she doesn't pull back right away. When you make a joke, her laugh comes with a light touch to your arm fingertips, lingering for 2 seconds too long. None of these moments scream sex, but they bypass logic and drop straight into your nervous system, stirring up thoughts you weren't having a moment earlier. You've just been signaled. Here's the part most men miss. Women don't have to be explicit, because explicit is risky. Directness can kill plausible deniability, and plausible deniability is part of the game. If you confront her, she can shrug it off. You're imagining things. If you don't, the suggestion lingers in your mind. The silence is her weapon. The longer she can make you wonder, the more she can hold the frame. That's why you can't judge her interest purely by her words. A woman can talk to you like you're her brother while giving off signals that say something entirely different. The shift is in the micro movements, the tilt of her head, the parting of her lips when she listens, the way she unconsciously mirrors your posture. It's in the small self-grooming touches, smoothing her hair, adjusting her necklace while her eyes stay on yours. These are primal cues. They live in a part of the brain older than speech. But here's the trap: if you respond too eagerly to these signals, you've already lost. Women read speed as desperation. If you close the gap too quickly, you remove the tension that made her send the signals in the first place. The unspoken rule is that she can lead you to the water, but you drink only when she's thirsty too. That means holding your center, even when every instinct tells you to lean in. A practical move: start by observing without reacting. She brushes your arm, don't rush to brush back. Let the moment pass. Hold her eye contact for just half a beat longer than she expects, then calmly look away. If she's playing the hint game, she'll notice the gap, and if she's genuinely interested, she'll come back stronger. This is how you filter casual flirtation from actual intent. Indifference forces clarity. Another tactic: break the rhythm. If you sense her stacking cues, prolonged eye contact, open body language, small touches interrupt with something neutral, turn to include someone else in the conversation, or shift to a non-intimate topic. If her signals are genuine, she'll reintroduce them. If they fade, you know it was situational, not personal. This saves you from investing in a false lead, which is where most men bleed attention, time, and energy. You also need to be aware of situational amplification, alcohol, dim lighting, group energy. All of these can make a woman more physically expressive without sexual intent. A common mistake is assuming nightclub touch equals bedroom interest. That's not always true. If you can't picture her repeating the same touches in broad daylight, in a cafe, without music or drinks, then you're probably reading environment as interest. Understand, the psychology here isn't just about attraction, it's about control. A woman who can make you think about sex without ever mentioning it controls the pace and tone of the interaction. You become the one chasing confirmation. You're the one reading into every laugh, every shift in her chair. That's why the strongest position you can hold is curiosity without investment. You're aware of the cues. You register them. But your sense of value isn't tied to whether they escalate. You don't punish her for playing the game, but you don't let it dictate your mood either. That's how you become the man she can't quite read, the one she can't easily pull into orbit. And when you decide to respond, it's on your terms, not because her hints pushed you there, but because you chose it. Have you ever been in a situation where you misread these signals and it backfired? Did you ever catch yourself chasing her attention just because she hinted at more? Which of these cues do you think you've fallen for the most? Be honest in the comments. There's a moment every man remembers, the one where you thought something was about to happen, and then nothing did. She leaned in close, her perfume drifting just enough to feel personal. Her voice lowered, her words slowed, her gaze flickered to your mouth and back to your eyes. Your body read it as an invitation. You leaned forward, maybe a fraction, waiting for her to close the gap, but she didn't. She pulled away, smiled, and changed the subject. That's the kind of moment that can stick in your head for days, because it wasn't just about what she did, it was about what she didn't do. That pause, that pullback, is often intentional. Women hint at sex without saying a word, not just to spark attraction, but to measure control. When she dials up the signal and then withdraws, she's watching how you handle the shift. Do you get flustered? Do you start chasing harder? Do you immediately try to win her back? Those reactions tell her more about your frame than any question she could ask. And here's where men fall into the trap. You think your job is to keep her interested at all costs, so you overcompensate. You buy another drink, you lean in more, you push the conversation toward the personal or intimate. What you don't realize is that by doing that, you've confirmed she holds the power. You're responding to her rhythm instead of setting your own. The strategic move is the opposite. When she sends a cue and then withdraws, you don't chase. You match her withdrawal with calm detachment. If she sits back, you lean back. If she looks away, you let her. This isn't about playing cold. It's about refusing to be emotionally yanked around. It shows you're not dependent on her cues to feel secure in yourself, and that creates a different kind of tension, the one where she's the one wondering. A useful test in these moments is to break the intimacy entirely for a beat. Shift your focus talk to the bartender. Greet someone passing by. Glance at your phone. Not obsessively, just naturally, as if her signals are one of many things happening in your world, not the center of it. This subtly communicates that your attention is a choice, not an automatic reaction. The men who master this aren't the ones who rush to respond. They're the ones who decide when and how they engage. Now, let's talk about the subtler cues that don't involve touch at all. One of the most potent is proximity. If she's consistently closing the distance between you leaning in when she doesn't need to, standing closer than the situation requires, that's a high probability signal. But again, the key is to verify. Will she maintain that closeness if you shift slightly away? If she steps right back into your space without hesitation, you're reading genuine comfort. If she lets the distance stay, it might have been momentary, situational, or just playful without intent. Another powerful but often misread cue is voice modulation. Women will lower their tone and slow their speech when they want to create a more intimate atmosphere. It draws you in, makes you lean closer to hear. But here's the trap: sometimes this isn't sexual at all. It's simply an influence tactic. Lowering the voice forces you to focus, giving her more control of your attention. That's why you have to separate the feeling from the fact. Feeling drawn in doesn't mean she's inviting more. It just means she's good at engaging you. Eye contact is the most dangerous of them all. A steady gaze, especially when paired with a faint smile or a slow blink, can make a man's brain fill in an entire story. But women know the power of this. Some use it to build attraction, others to hold you in place without promising anything. The way to read it is simple, sustained. Unbroken eye contact followed by a smile and a return to it multiple times in one interaction is a strong signal. But if it's one deep look in a night of scattered attention, it's just an isolated moment. The psychological reason these cues work so well is that they bypass rational thought. Your brain is wired to respond to these primal indicators, closeness, touch, gaze, tone, as potential mating signals. And that's why you have to discipline your reaction. Awareness isn't enough. You have to pair it with a standard "I don't invest more until her actions escalate beyond suggestion." This standard keeps you from overvaluing a few moments of chemistry. It also forces her to show more if she wants more. It flips the script. Instead of her measuring your response, you're quietly measuring hers. And that's the essence of masculine control in this game. You're not denying desire, you're directing it. When you do decide to lean in physically or emotionally, it should feel like a reward she earned, not a reflex she triggered. That's when the tension works in your favor, because the men who give everything away at the first signal never get to see what happens when she's the one trying to convince you. Have you ever held back like this and seen a woman escalate her interest? Or do you usually respond immediately to the first hint? Which approach has worked better for you in the long run? Share your experiences below. There's a side to this game most men don't talk about, the way it can make you question yourself long after the moment has passed. You go home thinking about that subtle smile, the way she adjusted her hair when you looked at her, the gentle graze of her fingertips as she passed you something. You replay it in your head, wondering if you missed an opportunity. That's exactly why these unspoken signals are so powerful. They're designed to live rent-free in your mind, to keep you orbiting her long after the interaction ends. The danger isn't just in misreading the cue, it's in the way it can shift your behavior without you realizing. Maybe the next time you see her, you give her more attention than you normally would. Maybe you start doing little things to try and earn more of those moments. Without noticing, you've moved from being the man she's signaling to being the man she's controlling with curiosity. This is why understanding intent is critical. If she's genuinely interested, her signals won't just be isolated flashes, they'll be consistent, and they'll survive changes in setting and mood. If her hints evaporate the moment you stop giving her attention, that's not attraction, that's leverage. She's using the idea of intimacy to pull more focus, more validation, more effort from you without actually giving anything back. Here's a practical frame to apply in real time. Look for escalation, not repetition. Repetition means she's comfortable flirting at a certain level, but has no intention of moving beyond it. Escalation means her signals grow in frequency or intensity as the interaction progresses. For example, early in the evening she might stand close, but later she's touching your shoulder, leaning in when you talk, lowering her voice, and finding excuses to stay in your space. That's escalation. If she's been twirling her hair for 2 hours but never closes the gap, that's repetition, and it's probably just a habit or a safe level of flirtation she enjoys without risk. Also, notice whether she's creating moments for privacy. Women who are hinting with intent will find ways to break away from the group or hold you in a conversation without distractions. If her cues only happen when there's an audience laughing a little too loud at your jokes when everyone's watching, leaning in dramatically in front of friends, it might be more about performance than connection. Now, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood signals lingering after the natural end of an interaction. Most people wrap up a conversation naturally. They glance around, shift their weight, or step back. But when she stays planted after the logical close, even finding another small thing to say or do, that's a quiet but high-value indicator. It means she's choosing your presence over moving on. In contrast, if she delivers a strong signal but leaves the moment it's acknowledged, She's protecting the mystery, not inviting escalation. From a tactical standpoint, the best way to handle these hints is to never let them be the peak of the interaction. Don't build the night around chasing the next touch or look. Instead, focus on creating moments she reacts to. When you lead the conversation into unexpected topics, tease her lightly, or make her qualify herself to you. You shift the dynamic she starts looking for your signals. That's when the balance of power changes. One move I've seen work repeatedly is what I call the reset pivot. You notice the signals, you acknowledge them internally, but then you shift the energy completely. Maybe you stand up to get a drink, change the subject to something light, or involve another person in the conversation. This does two things. It prevents her from thinking she has you on a string, and it tests whether she'll work to regain your focus. If she starts reintroducing the same cues after the pivot, you've got genuine interest. If not, you've just avoided wasting your energy. Remember, not all hints are sexual. Some are simply about enjoying the attention without risk. The only way to know is to make her invest as much as you do. That means holding your ground, not giving more than you're getting, and being willing to walk away with the mystery intact. Paradoxically, this is often what makes her turn suggestion into action. Because here's the truth. A man who's immune to hints becomes the man she wants to convince. And the moment she's working to get a reaction from you, the game is yours. Have you ever noticed a woman re-escalate after you pulled your attention away? Or have you been caught in the loop of chasing the same hints over and over? Which one do you think describes your past more accurately? Drop your story below. There's a psychological edge you gain when you stop reacting to every spark she throws your way. And it's not just about appearing cool or hard to get. It's about breaking the reward cycle that most men unknowingly feed. See, when a woman learns that a small smile, a casual touch, or a certain look can shift your energy, she's holding a remote control for your attention. And here's the hard truth: if you respond instantly every time, you've trained her to see you as predictable. Predictable men aren't exciting, they're safe. And safe doesn't build the kind of tension that leads anywhere. The opposite is unpredictability, not in the childish, erratic sense, but in the disciplined, controlled way where she can't quite map your reactions. That's when she has to lean in to figure you out. She has to test more, signal more, commit more. This is where the power balance flips. The hunter becomes the hunted. One way to do this is by letting a hint land, but not act on it until later. Imagine she touches your hand lightly in conversation. You register it, but don't return the touch. 10 minutes later, in a completely different moment, you place your hand lightly on her lower back as you guide her through a crowded space. Now, it's you creating the moment. She'll notice that you didn't respond immediately, you chose when to return the signal. That shift is subtle but profound. Another tactic is signal inversion. This is where you mirror a cue, but strip it of its sexual undertone. If she leans in close, instead of closing the gap further, you lean slightly away while maintaining eye contact and smiling. If she lowers her voice to draw you in, you respond in a steady, normal tone. You acknowledge the energy without escalating it, which forces her to decide whether to amplify or drop it. Either way, you've removed the automatic reward and replaced it with a choice she has to make. And here's something most men never realize. Sometimes the strongest sexual hint isn't touch, gaze, or proximity, it's absence. A woman who is genuinely interested but emotionally disciplined might withdraw briefly to create space for your mind to wander. You think she's losing interest, but in reality, she's creating contrast. When she reappears in your space, it feels more charged because you noticed she was gone. If you've been around women who know how to work a room, you've seen this. She talks to others, laughs elsewhere, and then circles back to you with that familiar spark. The men who panic and chase during the absence never get the full effect. The men who stay planted, unbothered, get the return and the reward. From a practical perspective, your greatest leverage is in controlling your own pacing. Think of it like a dance where you decide when the next step happens. That might mean slowing things down when the cues are flying fast, or increasing intensity when she's starting to pull back. It's a form of frame control. You're steering the emotional tempo instead of being a passenger. It's also worth mentioning that not all women send signals for the same reason. Some do it purely out of genuine attraction. Some do it because they crave the thrill of being desired without any intention of following through. And some do it as part of a larger social power play, keeping you invested, keeping you off balance, making sure you're never fully certain. The way you protect yourself across all three scenarios is by treating hints as data, not instructions. They inform you, but they don't dictate your move. That's why I always tell men never reward suggestion with certainty. If she hints, don't immediately give her the satisfaction of knowing she's gotten to you. Let her work for the confirmation. When you do this, you're not just avoiding the trap, you're setting the stage for something real. Because if she's truly interested, she will escalate until there's no ambiguity left. And if she's not, you'll have saved yourself time, energy, and a lot of second guessing. The moment you stop being the man who reacts and start being the man who chooses, you'll notice something strange happen. Her signals will become bolder, clearer, and harder to ignore. That's not an accident. That's her way of adapting to your pace. That's when you know you've taken the frame. Have you ever tried delaying your response to a signal and seen her come back stronger? Or have you always felt the need to meet the moment right away? Which one do you think would change the game for you most? Tell me in the comments. There's a moment, if you hold your ground long enough, where her hints stop feeling like random sparks and start to take on a sharper edge. She's no longer just leaning in, she's finding reasons to be next to you. She's not just laughing at your jokes, she's asking personal questions, touching you more deliberately, letting silences linger as if she's waiting for you to close the gap. That's when you've reached the point where suggestion is no longer about control, it's about invitation. And the only reason you got there is because you refuse to be pulled in on her terms alone. Most men never make it here. They short-circuit the process. The first time she plays with her hair while holding eye contact, they lean forward, lower their voice, and try to take things to the next level. But women who know their value or know how to play the game rarely give the first signal as a green light. They give it as bait. If you take it too quickly, you're confirming that your attention is easily won. Once she knows that, the mystery is gone, and with it, most of the attraction. This is where restraint becomes your greatest weapon. Restraint doesn't mean ignoring her completely, it means controlling when and how you advance. You're showing that you don't just react to a signal, you assess it, weigh it, and decide if it's worth matching. That decision-making process, even if it happens in a split second, communicates self-control. And self-control is rare. It stands out. It makes you the man she can't quite predict. From a tactical perspective, the safest time to respond physically is after she's escalated twice without you doing anything in return. Example, she touches your arm in conversation, you let it pass. Later, she leans in close enough that you can feel her breath, you still hold your frame. Then, she positions herself next to you again, brushing your side while speaking. That's 3 distinct moments. By the third, she's telling you she's comfortable and willing to push further. That's when you can return the signal, not before. There's also a verbal equivalent to this. If she makes a playful innuendo or flirts verbally, resist the urge to jump into sexual banter right away. Instead, sidestep with humor or redirect to something more grounded. If she brings it back again later, and then again after that, you've got your confirmation. This is the conversational version of letting her knock twice before you open the door. And here's the thing. This isn't just about protecting yourself from misreading interest. It's about building tension. Every time you hold back, you're creating a gap, and in that gap, her curiosity grows. She starts to wonder why you're not biting. She starts to question whether she's misreading you, which often makes her try harder to get a clear answer. That effort is where her investment happens. And when she's invested, she's no longer just hinting, she's pursuing. There's a deeper psychological shift here too. When you stop chasing every signal, you start noticing the difference between women who are genuinely drawn to you and women who are just skilled at getting attention. That awareness changes how you move. You stop being pulled into games that go nowhere. You stop rewarding empty flirtation. You start valuing your own time, energy, and presence as much as she values hers. And this is the part most men underestimate. Women respect men who can handle sexual tension without folding, because that's what makes the eventual payoff, if it comes, feel earned. Anyone can respond to an obvious invitation. It takes control to navigate the gray zone without losing your balance. When you become that man, you're not just harder to manipulate, you're harder to forget, because you're the one who didn't give her the instant reaction she's used to getting. You're the one who made her work for clarity, and whether she admits it or not, that stays with her. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.